Welcome in, everybody, to Betting Pros. It's time to place your bets. It is me, Joe Pisapia, and today it's about Championship Sunday. We did it. We got here. Two big games on Sunday, one in the afternoon, one in the evening, for all of us to sit back and do absolutely nothing except watch and, of course, bet. And that's what we're here to do today, and to help us get the right bets and the right wagers in on time, of course, is the Undertaker himself, back from the dead, Andrew Erickson, and, of course, the Welsh, the man about town, who is actually going to have a new address pretty soon, which is very exciting. So he's doing the show amongst all the boxes, which is the worst. So, Welsh, give me the over-under on when the boxes are all unpacked. You're moving this weekend. I'm going to set the date at February 17th. Over-under, you are unpacked completely by then.
2025.
I thought that was exactly. That was without saying.
I'll go with the over 100%. Yeah. No. We won't be completely unpacked.
Erickson, you strike me as an unpacker like me. Like, I'm a guy, I come home from vacation or meetings or wherever, I'm gone for a couple days. The first thing I do, suitcase gets emptied, laundry goes in, boom, bang, boom, done. I move, things are getting unpacked, things are getting put away, 2-3 days tops, forget about it. Erickson, you strike me as that kind of dude. Is that true?
I don't like doing that, but I force myself to do it because I know it's the right thing to do. It's the adult, responsible thing to do. So, yeah. That's
why I like you, Erickson. You're the adult in the room. So, Andrew Erickson, the Welsh, they have their picks ready to go. Before we get to them, don't forget, everybody, make sure you drop your comments below, because we love to hear your picks here on the channel. So drop your comments below, and if you do, you just might win a 1-year free premium upgrade to Betting Pros, the best betting tools on the planet. If you haven't already, download the Betting Pros app. Use it this weekend. Use it for all the sports you're using. And if you have iOS, you get 3. That's right, count them, 1, 2, 3 free days of premium Betting Pros. So you can play around with all the bells and whistles there, which are really going to help you take your wagering to the next level, especially if you're new to wagering and you just went legal in your state. Betting Pros is a great way to help yourself. You got the prop bet cheat sheet, all the other tools too. You can even track your progress, or just make picks and just figure out how things are going and track your progress that way until you feel comfortable starting to put some money on the line. And don't forget, if you're going to put money in the line for NBA, make sure you're watching Fast Break Bets with Matt Modi, the man, the myth, the legend, every Wednesday, every Friday, 11 a.m. Eastern, right here on the Betting Pros channel. Subscribe, ring the bell for notifications, join him live. All right, gentlemen, let's start here with, of course, Kansas City and Baltimore. Welsh, we'll start with you because we know the moving truck will be there any minute, so I want to make sure we get all your picks in. So let's talk about it. Your first side of the game that you like. We're going to dive into these two games one at a time. Do the sides we like, and then do the props we like. So, Welsh, what do you have for the people?
Do you want both my sides or just one?
I want both your sides, baby.
All right.
It's been a long time, and I'm looking for both of Welsh's sides. Oh, yeah.
I will tell you, I don't really love any of the side total bets, like, that I'm enamored with. I have my bets, but my obsession is more in the prop market than it is the actual, like, sides and against the spread stuff that we're going to play. But I do have some plays. We're going back to Kansas City, and we are going to play the plus money. It was 3.5 at one point. You can find it pretty easily at +4 now. So give me Kansas City +4, who are now 5-0 in their last 5 games as underdogs. And I think they're on a run right now. I mean, Baltimore has absolutely been a beast, but I'm going to be backing Travis Kelce in this one. I'm going to be backing the plus money. And it's kind of that key marker. Give me that 3.5 to 4 for Kansas City. That's where I'm going to sit. And I think this has definitely the potential to be a close game. And by that, you've got a low total. 44.5 is the line, with a 22.5 first half line. So last week didn't work out for me, but I'm going to go right back to it. And I'm going to play a total, but I'm going to take the under 22.5. Again, another key marker that's at that 21 point. If I get above, I'm going to play under. I don't think this is going to be a high scoring half. The game is not projected to be a high scoring game, though they're projecting some points to be in the first half. So give me first half 22.5 under and Kansas City +4. I actually think I like the first half play more than I like anything, but both of these, again, solid bets. I'm not going to go too crazy because it is playoff football and sides and totals can get crazy. But I will say, if you're looking at public money, currently public money and tickets are on Baltimore. So we are a fade the public right now.
Okay. Everybody knows how I feel about Kansas City as an underdog. I made the big statement last week about it. Felt right. It was right. Erickson, where do you side with this game? Kansas City coming into Baltimore here with the MVP, in air quotes, Lamar Jackson.
I like the Chiefs side with the points. I don't know if they're going to win the game, but I think that an easy way to ruin your Sunday experience watching football is to bet against Patrick Mahomes. I'm just gonna be honest. Like, if you're just rooting for him to do bad every time he drops back to throw, you're just gonna be like, why do I hate myself? Like why did I subject myself to this misery? So I'm on the KC plus 3.5, plus 4, wherever you can get that for the reasons Welsh outlined, for really all the reasons. It's just betting on Mahomes as an underdog just feels right. Again, so I'm not as gung-ho on the money line, but I do think that just taking it against the spread, taking the points of the Chiefs makes sense. But I like the over in this game because the over is the way I view it, as a way to bet on both quarterbacks doing well, which what better two quarterbacks to bet on in that case? If you did that last week with the Chiefs and the Bills, that game soared over the total because you're betting on two guys playing an MVP level to put on the Superman cape and get the job done. Now, I think it's going to happen again. 44.5. Isn't it weird that we have a game between Lamar Jackson and Patrick Mahomes that has a smaller total than a game between Brock Purdy and Jared Goff? That was not on my bingo card heading into this season, but here we are.
Are Brock Purdy and Jared Goff the two elites? Is that was it?
No, they're not. No, they're not.
Oh, let's have that conversation.
They definitely aren't. So when you look
System quarterback. Sorry, I had something in my throat. Sorry.
So when you look at the season-long trends, again, that's why the total in this game is not great for the Kansas City Chiefs and the Baltimore Ravens. The Chiefs have been the team that's had the most unders, tied with the Carolina Panthers, because their totals are usually much higher based on the expectations. But you look at what they've done recently, Ravens, 5 of their last 6 home games have gone over. The only one that didn't was the game that Tyler Huntley started. 61 points scored on average in the last 5 games in Baltimore that have gone over the total. What about the Chiefs on the road? The last 4 Chiefs road games have all gone over the total. 44, 46, 48, and 51. Average of 47 total points per game. So season long, yes, this line makes sense at 44.5. But on the recent trends, home road splits, this is a game that I'm hammering the over on. Like, call me crazy that I'm betting on Mahomes and Lamar Jackson to do well. That's what I'm going to be rooting for, because every time they drop back to throw, it's going to be magic. So I'm going to be enjoying it with my popcorn, being like, hey, I don't care who wins. I just know both quarterbacks are going to ball out here. So I like the over at 44.5.
Little bit of rain. Just point out, a little bit of rain also projected in this game, if that means anything. Sometimes that can play to huge offensive upside. Not sure that that'll be the play in here, but there is a current forecast of likely rain in that one.
All right. Not Isaiah likely rain, just regular rain, by the way, just for everybody out there. Erickson, popcorn, kettle corn, butter. What's the popcorn? Caramel?
No, I had a lot of kettle corn growing up, and I think I was overexposed to it, honestly. So like now I'm sick of it. So I definitely prefer the cheddar, that type of popcorn.
White
with
cheddar
the savory.
popcorn.
Yeah.
There you
the
go.
goat.
There you go. And speaking of the line too, you're talking about, you can get the 4 over on DK, you can get the 4 over on Bet Rivers. Of course, the juice goes from the 105 at the plus 3.5 to minus 112 for minus 105. So, that's the only thing. The juice gets adjusted a little bit. Caesars actually has the plus 3.5 at even money, which is interesting. Again, this is why this is why you use the BettingPros app, everybody, because you have these opportunities to take a look and then bet the best line you possibly can, especially if you're making big wagers.
I would play the 3.5 at better juice for sure. Like 3.5, 4, it's fine.
Well, the better juice, 3.5 at even at Caesars right now, that looks like the best bang for your buck there. Let's talk about the individuals for this game. Welsh, give us the 2 props you like for Kansas City, Baltimore.
All right, going over to the Kansas City. I'm backing Travis Kelce in this one. So, yeah, we're going Travis Kelce, 61.5 receiving yards over. Kelce has hit this total in both playoff games, but I went back and took a look. In fact, Kelce has a streak of 11 straight playoff games dating back to 2021, where he has had no less than 70 receiving yards. The 2 best tight ends the Ravens have gone up against this year were both Laporta and Kittle. Both of those tight ends went for 95 yards and 126 respectively. So I think, we have clearly gotten Kelce back into the action. We've got some historical data. So far, the playoffs have worked here. So I'm backing Travis Kelce on that front. And then on the other side, my other bet is going to be on a Baltimore Raven. We're going with Justice Hill, who we saw get a ton of touches last week in the receiving side and on the rushing side. You can get big plus money on his receptions. 2.5 over is plus 140. He hit this last week. And the Chiefs have given up 3 receptions or more to running backs in 4 straight games. They're also averaging just under 5 receptions given up to running backs. And for me to back Kansas City, Snead kind of maybe locking up the receivers, I think there's going to be a possibility there's a lot of dump offs. So tight ends and running backs for Baltimore, I think, are in play. This is a huge plus money play. So I really like this one for Justice Hill. So Kelce receiving yards over, Justice Hill receptions over.
All right, Erickson, let's go to you for two of your favorite props for the early game. And I can't believe this, but you're going to talk about two overs. Who are you? I don't even know who you are anymore.
No, only one over. I honestly don't like a lot of props in this game,
Okay.
so I actually only put one prop from the Chiefs-Ravens game because I'm just loading up on props on the second conference championship game.
Okay.
Pacheco over 14.5 rushing attempts. He's gone over this in 3 straight games in 7 of his last 8 games played. Like, this is an offense that's building around Pacheco. Like, it's Pacheco, it's Rashee Rice, it's Travis Kelce if he feels like it. Like, and this is, you can attack the Ravens on the ground, like we talked about earlier this week on the Fantasy Pros show. Like, the over on Pacheco's rushing yards. Now that number has been bet up. It was open at like 60.5. I think it's around like 64.5 now. So I don't love the value as much, but on the rushing attempts, the volume that he's getting in a game that should be close, I don't think that either team is going to abandon the run in any way, shape, or form. So I'm just going to continue to ride Pacheco like the Chiefs are done with him basically the last 8 games.
All right. Certainly makes a lot of sense to me. I like him in DFS. I know Debro and I are going to talk about that on the DFS pod today as we record that right after this. So it makes a lot of sense to me. I like the over on Pacheco too. And I think you're right. I think they've finally, realized this is their identity. This is their new offense. And it's a little bit different than what we've seen in the past, but it works. And Baltimore a little bit vulnerable there. I think if you're going to attack that defense, that's the way to do it. Okay, let's shift gears here to San Francisco. Welsh, I know you're very excited for this game. Very exciting times for you. Before we even get to that, what did you think of your 49ers last week? Because I haven't talked to you about this. I talked to all the cheeseheads on Monday about it, but I haven't got a chance to talk to you. Were you impressed? Were you pleased? Were you just happy you got away with the victory? How did you feel about the Niners' performance last weekend?
Great teams find ways to win when they're not great. That's all that it is. All of everybody's nonsense. Shut up. They're the best. They have proven to be at least one of the best teams. Best team in the NFC. Brock Purdy played like garbage, and then he picked up in the fourth quarter in the most important time. Purdy can be frustrating. Purdy is the better version of Jimmy Garoppolo, which is garbage. Jimmy Garoppolo would have those moments where he would be incredible for 2 quarters and then make the stupidest throw you've ever seen a human being make. Purdy has those, and he's gotten away with them quite a bit this season. That's great. He's not the best quarterback in the NFL, but he is great for the system. He is much better than what the public talks about. And like I said, most important thing is great teams find ways to overcome when they're not being great. And the 49ers were not great. They are lucky to have lost or to have won that game. And the defense was piss poor. Purdy was bad. The hope is that when you can win a game like that, when you're that bad, when they get right, the 49ers are a machine and unstoppable. So yeah, I hated last week's game. I'm so happy to be excited this week. And we'll see what happens. The Lions are kind of a scary team, but they are a horrid defense, and that's what we're going to talk about.
All right, so let's talk about it. What is your angle? We're looking at the game numbers here for this one before we get to the individuals.
Yeah, it's going to be no shocker, not even trying to be the biggest 49er homer or anything like that. But I bet this game, but I bet it early. I actually bet it like after the game last week, and I got 49ers 6.5. This line is a moving. It's gone to 7. It's up to 7.5 on DK. I don't know if it'll keep going. 7.5 might be a key marker that brings it back down, but I like the 49ers in this one. One of the top scoring teams against one of the worst defensive bottom 10 in defensive scoring given up for the Detroit Lions. I also think the 49ers, this is a mission type of game. How bad, I mean, we can talk about it. We just did. How bad did they play last week? The defense has to play better. They've got to shut down, and you got to dominate. I think there's a lot of advantages offensively for the 49ers. So I'm going to take that 7. When it gets to 7.5, it's a little dicey. I might even consider the Detroit side, but I'm going to take San Francisco -7 where you can find it. Go to bettingpros.com or get the app, and you'll be able to find the books that are giving that to you. That's really important, I think, for a 7 to 7.5 line. And then the other play is I'm going to go with the 49ers team total. I was digging through. This was on DK, kind of looking around to see, what is the juice versus different points. 49ers averaging just at 29 points per game on the year and averaging more points at home. I think around 3 or 4 points more at home than on the road. They're at home up against the Lions, who are a bottom 10 in points given up. I went with 29.5 total team points for the San Francisco 49ers because it had a little bit better juice. It's almost even money at 105. This line is 51.5. If you love the over, you got to love this even more. If you like San Francisco to win, you got to love it more. I'm banking on the 49ers putting up 30 points, which is definitely obtainable against this bad defense. So 29.5 team total points, San Francisco at almost even money on DK, and then the spread at 7.
All right, sounds like Welsh is pretty confident in the 49ers having a pretty easy path here to the Super Bowl. Erickson, do you see things the same way?
I do not. I'm taking the Lions with the points because, Welsh opened.
Why don't you just take the money line? Just take the money line, Mr. Detroit.
Take another little piece of my heart now, Erickson.
I don't want to take the money line. I'm just going to take the spread.
Well, the money line's plus 290 on FanDuel right now. That's the best one you can get at BettingPros. That's a pretty nice money line. I would even just throw half a unit on there just to cover yourself.
The thing is, I don't need to bet the money line because I have a Super Bowl ticket on the Detroit Lions. So that's my money line bet. So.
Rip that up, baby.
Those of you just listening on the podcast, that was the sound of Welsh ripping up Erickson's ticket in the ether. All right, Erickson, tell us why.
Well, Welsh opened talking about how great teams find ways to win. The other thing that great teams do, they cover the spread. Look at the last 3 years. Dan Campbell, Lions are number one team against the spread, over 70% against the spread the last 2 seasons. The 49ers, at home, are 0-6 against the spread. The Lions have covered the spread 8 of their last 9 games as underdogs.
Good trend.
The road team has covered the spread each of the 49ers' last 11 games. The 49ers are at home. They don't cover. So, yeah, I'm not taking the 49ers to win, especially now that you're getting the hook with the touchdown, plus 7.5.
Yeah, I'm not doing the hook.
Okay. Well, whatever all those plus sevens that people bet earlier.
Now, for those of you just listening and not watching on YouTube, that was Erickson ripping up Welsh's imaginary tickets of things. But look, I mean, they make a good case. A lot of people also throwing out the whole, the 49ers after that Eagles game, really the schedule has been a little softer for them. So it's kind of hard to get a gauge of how good they are. And I mean, look, a missed field goal, maybe a Jordan Love better moment at the end of the game. We might not be even talking about the 49ers. Look, Welsh makes a great point, which is obviously this is the, good teams do find ways to win. They are at home and they should win. But Erickson, I also feel kind of like, Shanahan always finds ways to lose these big games too. And that, my friends, is not a hot take. That's just a fact.
Yeah, and I agree. And the thing that I would also point out is he goes super conservative in playoff games. He tightens up. And you know who doesn't do that? Dan Campbell. Dan Campbell's going for it. Like, he doesn't care. Like, he's going to go for it, a 2-point conversion. If he's backed up to the 25-yard line, he's going to go for it. So
we're on our own 5. We're going to do a fake punt right here. He's like the Matt Foley of the NFL. I love him. You think that fake punt is going to be good? It's not going to amount to jack squat. I'm going to tell you people what's going on. Next thing you know, you get cut from the Lions. You end up living down in a van down by the river. I love Dan Campbell. He's so great. He's just the best.
He is great.
So you're in on the cover and you're in on the total for this game as well.
I like the under in this game. Okay, we're not playing in Ford Field, so number one, not Coors Field. We're playing in San Francisco, where the under happened, or the under wasn't last week, but we look at what they've done this year, 46.2 points per game. These teams average 48.5 points per game. So I'm trying to figure out where this 51.5 point total is coming from. I know the Lions defense has been really bad, but it's
coming from the names. It's coming from the Amon-Ra St. Brown, CMC, George Kittle. The names in this game are big. They're big offensive weapon names. That's why the total is where it is, I think.
And I think the total is just too high. It's really more of a value play. And again, that's why I talked about earlier how I like the props in this game. I think there's going to be yards, but I think that ultimately the points are going to fall just short because of just it being such a massive number. The Lions don't play nearly as well on the road as at home. Again, they're 5-4 towards the over on the road versus 7-2 versus the over at home this year. And we've seen with Brock Purdy where if he gets pressured, Aiden Hutchinson, he can make mistakes and not necessarily convert. What about if the Deebo Samuel doesn't play? So you're taking away some weapons here and the total gets bet up. Is that 50.5? Was it 51? Now it's a 51.5. And I'm just trying to figure out I just think that the value is on the underplay, given that these teams average 3 points fewer per game than the betting total. When you look at the overs that happened in San Francisco this season, the totals have been 51, 51, and 52. So one game all year long in San Francisco has actually gone over 51.5 points. One game. So I think the value is on the under.
All right, let's talk about the individuals here. Welsh, give us your favorite props for Sunday evening's contest.
By the way, I want to point out, Erickson is a full public fade. You have faded every public ticket and cash on all 4 games that I'm looking at. So I just would like to point that out. So man of not
Smells
the
like
people.
a 4-leg parlay I'm going to put together.
If there's one person who's not a man of the people, it's definitely Erickson.
All right. Attest to that. So I agree with Erickson on this. I think there's just a lot of plays out of this. If you would have said, hey, pick your 4 favorite props, I would have been all from this game and not out of that first game. So I honed it down. My favorite of the week, this was one I also locked in. I locked it at a much better number than it is, but Christian McCaffrey receptions, 4.5 over. I got it at -105. It's jumped up to -20 in the best market, and it's even around 125. But McCaffrey's hit this in 3 of his last 4 games, and in 6 games as a 49er without Deebo Samuel, he's combined for 31 catches, with 4 of those 6 games him having 5 or more receptions. So if Deebo's not in this game, I don't think Deebo is going to change the structure of a few of these bets that I like, but without Deebo, they're going to rely on a few other spots. Brandon Aiyuk, by the way, is one of the best matchups, but I just can't bet him correctly, so I'm just staying away from it. But Christian McCaffrey, I think he had 7 receptions last week. I mean, he is getting the ball out of the backfield. That is where they're going to go, and without Deebo, he's a big play on this. George Kittle is another big play. Erickson is on one side that I think you can pivot from my play. And so this is a little cheekier, but I went with George Kittle, longest reception, 24.5. And this is just like basic prop juice. He's hit this in 8 of his last 10 games played. And 1 of those that he missed, it was 24 yards. And he's hit this in 5 of his last 6 games. Prior to this season, the Lions had given up the end of the season, the regular season, the Lions had given up the most receiving yards to tight ends over the last month. So that is just an advantage for tight ends overall. So the overall pivot play is you can go to the receiving yards on Kittle, which is just a little bit higher, but the longest reception, he just does this. Even in moments where he doesn't hit this overall receiving yard prop, the longest reception is something that is in play. Kittle makes big plays. The best tight end advantage to linebacker coverage is to Kittle for this coming weekend. And without Deebo, Kittle also has absolutely 8. So George Kittle, longest reception, 24.5 over.
It's a really good piece of analysis there. Also, I feel like that took a lot out of you. Do you need an orange slice or something, or are you okay?
Just rip up everything that I'm talking.
Rip up the orange. All right, Erickson.
I'm moving tomorrow. My brain can't
tomorrow
process.
You get to rip everything. You get to rip open boxes and all that stuff. It'll
if
be
the
fun.
49ers lose too, I'm gonna rip up.
Are you gonna have
house.
cable or whatever the setup is, like all set up ready to watch the game on Sunday? Like,
yeah, we'll be good.
Poor Welsh's family's like carrying boxes. He's like, yeah, just put that in the corner over there. Game's on. I gotta watch.
Luckily, it's the later game. That's the thing that's going to be like a saving grace. Is like everyone's going to be exhausted. It'll be the later game, and we'll go in. And hopefully, I'll have my words back. We can bring my words with the 49ers to the Super Bowl.
Yeah, and some orange slices. All right, Erickson, let's go to you. I know you said you had a 3. All right, you teased. Now's your chance.
All right, so kind of parlaying what Welsh said about George Kittle. I just like the over on his overall receiving yards, 59.5 receiving yards. Look, he's gone over 16, 7 of his last 10 games played, and all but 1 home game played this year. And we talked about the splits with Deebo Samuel, 6 starts with Brock Purdy without Deebo Samuel, including last week. Kittle's gone for over 90 receiving yards per game. Like, Kittle is just a big play machine. The matchup calls for it. And Welsh, I know you're afraid of, you got to dip your toes back into the Aiyuk pool, man. Like, it's when you least expect it. It's when you back off that you know he's going to go for 100 yards. Like,
that was my play last week, and it's like the best play this week.
Yeah,
but I'm like,
but the only reason you're not
it.
doing it is because it didn't work out last week. But
scared money don't make money, Welsh.
If Cortland Sutton has taught me anything, exactly, scared money don't make money. So go right back to Aiyuk. Bet that alternate 100 receiving yards, Welsh. Come on. Let's do it.
It's only like plus 150 this week, too. I'm like, come on.
Happen.
I know. Actually, I went and took a look. I think it's 5 straight number 1 wide receivers up against the Lions have gone over 100. It's like a ridiculous amount that the top wide receivers have.
I better see that in the BettingPros app that you have the Brandon Aiyuk over 100 receiving
All
yards.
right.
All right. So Kittle over. What else? You got any CMC props or anything on the Lions?
Yeah, I have a rare CMC under prop because his rushing attempts is set at 20.5 rushing attempts. He has not gone over this number in 7 straight games. 7 straight games he's been under 20 carries, and the Lions defense has been one of the best against the run this year. They have not allowed a running back to get to 20 carries against them all season. So this has literally never happened against the Lions, where a running back's gotten 20 carries. McCaffrey hasn't done it in 7 straight games. So yeah, maybe I get burned by CMC, the best player in fantasy football, but I like the value here on the under at 20.5 rushing attempts. So I'm going to be betting that. The other under I like, Jared Goff under 1.5 rushing yards. He got over this last week on a scramble. It was the first time that Jared Goff has scrambled since week 13. And that's because he was facing a Todd Bowles blitz-heavy defense that quarterbacks more likely to scramble against. The 49ers have the third lowest blitz rate in the NFL. And before this, again, Jared Goff is not a mobile quarterback. He doesn't run. So when the Lions ultimately cover and you have Jared Goff potentially kneeling at the end of the game, that's negative yardage too. So I'm going to go with less than 1.5 rushing yards for Jared Goff.
Okay, there you go. So Jared Goff, finally another under there from Erickson. Finally, he showed up again. So Erickson's in on the over on Pacheco's rushing attempts, 14.5. The over on Kittle's 59.5 receiving yards. The under on the 20.5 rushing attempts, and the under on the 1.5 rushing yards for Jared Goff. And then, of course, Welsh is in on Travis Kelce's receiving yards over 61.5. Justice Hill, 2.5 over on his reception total. CMC receptions 4.5. You like the over on this one, correct, Welsh? I'm saying that correctly. Was the over? And then you like the Kittle longest reception, which I think is a great one that you highlighted there. 24.5. You're getting minus 115 on that. So lots of good bets here. But again, we want to hear from you. What are you in on? What are you betting on? Drop it here. You can also join our Discord, fantasypros.com/chat. We have the Betting Pros Discord available as well. So we love to get in there. And before you know it, we're going to be talking Super Bowl pretty soon. My goodness, how time flies when you're having fun. That'll do it for us. But the story of the game goes on. For Andrew Erickson and the Welsh, I'm Joey P. We'll see you next time, kids.